Hi everyone, it's Laura Volpes for ModaScrap, and in today's video I'm going to share with you how to create a super fun and super easy postcard style card. The papers that I chose for today's project come from the Forever Green paper pad. I used the 6x6 version, but there is a 12x12 pack available too. I also used WOODSTOCK white cardstock by ModaScrap, and then I used the Postage bead stamps and I combined them with the Postage Summer and Postage Travel stamps. I also used the Thanks stamp set with these gorgeous scripty style sentiments, and lastly I used the dashing rectangles to die cut panels for my postcard. Here you can see the designs that I chose from the Forever Green 6x6 paper pad, and I die cut them with 3 different sizes of my dashing rectangles dies. I obtained 3 panels that I'm going to glue together right away using Nuovo Deluxe adhesive, and I'm going to create a very simple design for my project today. The Forever Green paper pad was part of the Christmas release for 2019, but I think it is great to create cards all year around, especially travel themed cards, and if you are a mountain lover, I think these are just perfect. Once I was done adhering my layers, I moved on and started working on my images. As I mentioned, these are part of the Postage Beat, Postage Travel and Postage Summer stamp sets by ModaScrap, and I'm stamping them with Memento ink in the color Rich Cocoa on some white cardstock, and I will be doing some coloring with my Illustrator alcohol markers. I decided to stamp them with some brown ink rather than the classic black ink, if you will, because I felt that this was a better match to the color palette that I have on the front of the postcard. I also used some of the smaller images in the Postage Travel and Postage Summer stamp sets to add some decoration inside the postage stamps, and I also stamped the sentiment "Chose happiness" right away. I then started coloring the images, and I kept the coloring rather simple. As I said, I'm using my Illustrator markers, which are alcohol-based markers, but of course you can use the coloring medium that you prefer. I chose a rather limited color palette and I stuck to rather muted colors because I wanted to match the vibe of the pattern paper. So for my pinks I used AP4 and AP1. For the blues I used VB3 and VB1. And for the suitcase here I'm using TN8, TN6 and TN3. The way in which I'm coloring the images is I am starting with my darkest marker and then I am blending it out with my lighter one. For most of the images I'm using just 2 markers with the exception of the suitcase and the frame of the postage stamps. Those are a little bit larger in terms of area, so having 3 markers helps me get a little bit of a smoother blend, but the rest is so small that 2 markers are completely sufficient. I wanted the inside part of the postage stamps to be white, but I didn't want to leave it completely blank, so I decided to come in with this GB1 marker and add just a little bit of shading along the edges, and I'm then using my colorless blender to blend everything out so that I get a nice fade into white. Lastly, for the frames, I'm going to use some burnt oranges, so again, some desaturated colors for my coloring today. I started with BO4, I then blended it out with BO2, and the last marker for this color blend is BO1. As you can see, I'm adding the darker markers in the inner portion of the postage stamp frame, and I'm blending everything out towards the outer portions, which is where I have my highlights. I went ahead and off camera colored the rest of the postage stamps, and here you can have a look at the final result. Very quick and very easy coloring for today. At this point I could go ahead and die cut all the postage stamps using the Postage Beads coordinating dies. I always like to secure my dies with some low-tack tape to my paper before running them through my die cutting machine. And then for the sentiment banner, because there are no coordinating dies for that, I just used my scissors. Next, I adhered the images to the front of my postcard, and as I mentioned already, the design today is going to be very simple. I'm going to have the rectangular postage stamp in the center of my postcard with the sentiment banner just right under that, and then I'm going to adhere the two circular postage stamps on the sides, just slightly shifted towards the lower part of the design for a little bit of extra interest. Next, I worked on the back portion of the postcard, and for that I die cut some WOODSTOCK white cardstock by ModaScrap using the dashing rectangles dies. I'm going to use the postage beads, postage travel and postage summer stamps here to create the design which is typical of postcards, with the stamp, the lines for the recipient's address, and then on the left side of the postcard here I'm going to stamp my sentiment. And I want to say this was really fun to create. I love this stamp set and I think there are so many things you can do with it. One thing that comes to mind is to turn this into a postcard from one of your previous travels, so kind of a postcard to yourself. In that case, you would put a picture on the front, and here at the back you could write a note about why the trip was special or what memories were the ones you want to recall, and keep this as a keepsake. Another thing you could do with this is again add a picture of a significant memory or an experience you had and send this to somebody, especially now that we may be far away from the people we love and it's a little bit more difficult to get together. I think this is a nice way to share a nice experience you had with a significant other, which is a little bit different than sending a picture through your phone. Back to the postcard, I used my Illustrator markers again to color the images at the back of the postcard itself, and I used the same color combinations that I used on the front of the card so that I would have continuity in my project. Once that was done, I glued the front and the back of the postcard together, and then I decided to add just a little bit of extra detail to the front using some crystal clear confetti, and that finished off my project for today. And here is a close-up look at the final result. The project is really simple to make, but I think it's really fun, and as I said, there are a lot of opportunities to change this up a little bit and create even more fun projects. And that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I inspired you to create with the ModaScrap forever green papers and the postage bead stamps. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more card making and paper crafting inspiration. Thank you all so much for stopping by and have a great day.